I'm trying to embrace body love and body acceptance. Is it okay to still want to be thin? That is such a great question. Many people are beginning to recognize the destructive patterns of dieting and of obsessing about our weight and obsessing about our size. And there is a shift towards understanding that our value, your value, is much bigger and independent of your body size or your weight. So this is leading to a movement for greater body acceptance and body love, which is a beautiful thing. It's something I embrace for myself and teach to the world, encourage my clients to embrace for themselves as well. However, this tends to lead to this question that then arises: is it okay if I still want to be thin? And so, spoiler alert, the answer is yes. Yes, it is okay, and it's nuanced. It's not necessarily right or wrong, right? If you notice that popping up in your mind and just a desire that you have and awareness that you still have around your body and its size, of course it's okay. It's not right or wrong, it's just true. If it's there, it's true, and we don't have to judge it. But the question is, what do you do with it? My name is Michelle Shelton. I'm a registered dietitian and certified coach, and today we're going to dive into this question: is it okay to desire to be thin? And if that feels true to me, what do I do with it? So let's dive into this desire to be thin and where it came from, right? And what it leads to. So over the past, if you look at historically over the past 70 years or so in the US, from the 1950s to the 1990s, we saw a significant shift in terms of body size and what it should look like and expectations on men and women. And with this obsession about our body size and our weight led to a lot of disordered eating and even eating disorders, right? We all know what eating disorders are, right? We've heard about anorexia and bulimia and even orthorexia, right? There's others now. But even beyond that, right? Maybe that doesn't resonate with you, but culturally, most of us have some form of disordered eating, right? There's eating disorders, and then there's disordered eating, which is sort of that disconnection from your body, disconnection from the purpose that food and nourishment serves for you, and using food either to self-soothe or to control to get this certain outcome of what you think your body is supposed to look like, right? Both of those are types and forms of disordered eating, where we've sort of disconnected the purpose and the joy and the experience of eating with how we're actually using the food or that experience of eating, right? That's disordered eating. And as we saw this obsession with thinness, we saw an increase in those types of behaviors. And I would venture to say that culturally, we all have some experience and some degree of disordered eating, right? It's just it's just the experience of disconnecting from your body, disconnecting from your need, and eating out of either control or out of a lack of control, right? Either of those extremes are not really helpful. So with this trend, right, in disordered eating, this trend in sort of body hate and shame, right, there became this sort of pushback and shift, right? Realizing this is not helping us, it's not serving us, it's creating a lot of mental stress and anxiety, and it was really destructive to our overall well-being, right? This pursuit of health is actually creating some anxiety and the opposite effect to our well-being. And that led to this backlash then, right? This body love movement, which is an important sort of pushback, right? That's a good thing. This idea of accepting your body as it is, really investigating and understanding biases that we hold around weight and body size. Those are important things. But many got the message in that movement that you should not want to be thin, that there's something wrong in that desire to want to be thin. And that is what we want to really dive into and investigate. If you notice that in your system, is there something wrong if I want to be thin? That's what we want to surface and understand. So if you are trying to make the shift from maybe more of a hating your body or fighting your body to loving your body, it is normal that when you notice these thoughts and desires to be thin or just look a certain way, it's normal to want to sort of push them away, right? Because they seem or feel counterproductive to the goals or the shift that you're trying to make, right? So it's a really normal impulse. But here's the thing. Pushing them away does not really help, because the reality is, if the thought came, if the desire is there, then it is true for you on some level, right? Pushing it away does actually not send it anywhere except into your shadow, right? It sends it to the shadow where it continues to influence us, but without our conscious awareness. And when it's out of our conscious awareness, we actually have less ability to support it, to manage it, to heal it, to give it whatever it needs, right? So we want to bring it into our conscious awareness. In other words, we want to embrace it. We want to recognize that it is true at some level, right? And that it is okay, right? If we label it as bad, we push it away and it never goes anywhere. It stays inside of us, but now we are disconnected from it, right? We can't really do anything with it. So we want to acknowledge it and let it be true. That is the first step, and the most important step is to not exile it or push it away, but to let it be true. If we're not going to push it away, then what are we going to do with it? Well, let me offer you a few ideas. First of all, you're not going to let it be in charge. What you are going to do is start to get curious about where that thought came from and what it does for you. Because the reality is, this desire to be thin is normal and prevalent in our culture. Because at some level, it protects us. It helps us to achieve social acceptance, right? If culturally there's a push to look a certain way, then your social acceptance is going to rise if you look that certain way, right? So that desire to be thin is helping you achieve a certain level of social acceptance. It's protecting you from weight bias or teasing, right? Which are things that we know are true and happen. It's protecting you from maybe this discomfort of health problems. So in other words, it came into your system for a reason. It came into your system, this desire to be thin came into your system for a reason and to help you, right? To serve you. And all of those things make sense, right? And from that perspective, it's a really beautiful and courageous thing that this part of you is trying to do, right? And if it is in your system, if you notice that it is there, that desire to be thin, you can't just will it away. It's not going to go anywhere. It's much more productive to accept reality as it is. And in that acceptance, there's the opportunity to build relationship with it, right? That's the difference. That is what we're working towards. There is a part of me that desires to be thin. And if I push it away, I'm actually breaking relationship with it. I'm not sending it anywhere. I'm just breaking relationship. If I let it drive, I'm still not really building relationship with it. I'm just sort of like letting go of my own control, my own power, right? And so what I'm doing instead is staying in my power and building relationship with it. I'm not sending it anywhere. I'm also not letting it come into the driver's seat. I'm building relationship with it so that I can now understand it, care for it, and support it in the way that it needs. So this is an important principle. Any thought that we have, including this desire to be thin, but this is true for any thought that you have, the difference between letting it be true and letting it have a seat at the table versus letting it lead, right? That's the difference. Self-leadership keeps you at the head of the table, and maybe several voices or thoughts or desires inside of you as consultants and informants. Letting those different parts drive looks like you letting go of your power, right? And that's the shift we want to make. We're not letting them drive, but we are allowing them to be there. We are listening to them and hearing their voice. So let's first of all look at, what does that mean? What does that even look like, right? To let that desire to be thin drive, right? That looks like fear-driven actions. It looks like a lot of controlling behaviors, right? Okay, so if I have this desire to be thin, it means I have to control this and control that and do this and do that and manage, right? So a lot of fear and control in your system. It looks like polarization, right? So when you notice I have a strong desire to be thin, but then the next day I have this strong kind of rebellion come in and it's pushing back and saying, why do I care about this so much? This is so stupid and I should just accept my body, right? When you notice that kind of polarization, it means that you're probably letting a part of you drive, which then another part is coming in to try to take over the steering wheel, right? So that polarization can be a signal. Misalignment from your values, right? If you notice that you're doing things that are misaligned with your values. So for example, if you value health and well-being, and then you are starving yourself to be thin, right? That's values misalignment, right? And so that means that this part of you is driving and overriding your values. It may also look like a vacillation between trying to suppress it and letting it have control, right? That's a little bit of that polarization coming back into play, right? If you want to notice that sometimes you want to suppress it and let it go away, and sometimes you sort of give it full control. That is another cue that you're letting that part of you drive, right? So those are all signals to just notice and be like, this part maybe has too much say in my system, right? I'm believing it too much. I'm letting it make decisions that are taking me out of alignment, taking me out of my values. And I need to create a little bit of space to come back to center, right? I need to let it have its seat at the table, but I need to continue to lead my system. That's the shift we're starting to work towards. Okay, so what does the opposite look like? We're not letting it control, but we are letting it have a seat at the table. What does that look like? So first of all, it looks like acknowledging that it is true, acknowledging that it is there, right? Instead of pushing it away, right? That just sort of denial of, no, I don't have any desire in me to be thin. I just can totally accept my body, right? That's probably not true for very many of us, right? So letting it be true when you notice it come in, letting it be true. And then here's the shift, right? Sometimes we let it be true and then we're like, okay, if it's true, maybe it needs to have that control. It needs to drive, right? No, that's not what we're doing. We're shifting to active inquiry, right? Okay, so this is true. Let me get curious about it. And in that curiosity, there's some space. There's some space between you as the leader of your system and this part of you that wants to be thin, right? So what does that active inquiry look like? There's some core questions that you can ask, right? This part of me that wants to be thin, what is it afraid of? What is it afraid of? Maybe it's afraid of teasing. Maybe it's afraid of ridicule. Maybe it's afraid of health problems. Whatever those are, just let it be heard and seen, right? Validate those things as true. And then ask, what is it protecting, right? What is it protecting? Or another way to ask that is, what is its job? What is this desire to be thin doing for me? How is it protecting me? How is it trying to serve me? And then the next thing to ask, what does it need? What support does it need from me? Knowing the fears that it holds, knowing what it's trying to do for me, what does it need from me, right? So you're just starting to get this active inquiry around this part of you so you can understand it and build relationship with it. That's what relationship is, right? It's listening, it's understanding, it's supporting. And that's how you want to begin to show up for yourself and all parts of yourself. Okay, so this active inquiry. And from there, the path forward is a whole systems value-based action, right? With that part not driving, you from that place of center can understand the needs of that part. You can hear the needs of other parts of you, right? The parts that maybe don't want to diet anymore, that don't want to be starved, that don't want the restriction, right? The parts of you that hold certain values around health and well-being. All of that can now come into consideration because you have the space, right? You have the space to hear from all of the different parts of you, all of your needs and your values, right? And you can step forward in a values-based approach to whatever it is you're facing, right? Understanding what that part needs from you, what it's trying to protect, understanding your values, understanding your priorities, understanding your vision for your life. And with that perspective, you can make your wisest choice and take your wisest action forward. Here's what's really powerful and important about this approach. When you are fully conscious about what is present for you, you can be fully conscious about how you respond. And this is where you are fully empowered, fully aligned with your values, right? That's a great place to live from. So you want to embrace the parts of you that want to be thin, but you need to remain the leader, right? Embrace them, but you continue to lead. Asking yourself, what are your values? How do you want to show up for yourself? How do you want to meet your needs, right? That is where you maintain that place of self-leadership. Okay, let's talk about a skill that you can build to help in this process, right? Of embracing and befriending all parts of you, right? And letting them be true, but not letting them lead. So the skill we're going to talk about today is befriending the parts of you, any part of you, right? Whether it's an angry part or a petty part or a jealous part or all the parts we tend to kind of want to push away, we're starting to befriend, including the part of you that wants to be thin. These are some skills, some dialogue that you can practice to begin to befriend these parts of you. So the first one, just to label it as just a part of you, using this phrase. I'm noticing there's a part of me that still wants to be thin. There's a part of me that still wants to be thin. It's just a part. It's not all of me. right? If you think about the bigger context of who I am as a person, I'm so much more than that. And I notice that there is a desire to be thin, right? So you're just noticing it and naming it and helping it be seen in that bigger context. It's just a part of me, right? And then beginning to notice a little bit about that part. You're beginning to understand it and befriend it, right? Noticing things like this part of me says, right? What are some things that I hear myself saying to myself when this part is present? You should be thin. How are people going to think when you go to that high school reunion, or when you go to that family reunion, or all the different places where I need to look a certain way, or to the wedding, or to the celebration, whatever that may be, right? I'm noticing this part has opinions about that. These are the things that part says. Then begin to notice the body sensations, right? Maybe there's like that pit in your stomach of like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen when people think about or have thoughts about how I look and my weight, right? What happens inside of my body, and noticing the sensations, noticing the thoughts that come with those sensations, right? The fears and the emotions. Noticing if it has any images. Maybe there are certain images that come to your mind when this part is really active, right? Maybe it imagines this ideal body that you should look like, right? Or it imagines what you've looked like in the past, right? What images or memories coming to your mind. And then ending with, it makes sense that a part of me feels this way. It makes sense, right? Of course it makes sense. We have a cultural obsession with weight. Of course it makes sense that this part is scared and worried about that. But just like I would show up for my child when they're scared about something, but I know they're safe. I know they're safe, and I know that I will keep them safe, and I will set the boundaries in order to allow them to continue to be safe, because I am the leader, right? I can do that same thing for this part of me. It makes sense that you're afraid of these things, but it's okay because you are safe, and I will keep you safe, right? That's the skill you're beginning to build, that befriending and that leadership with that part. Okay, so let's pull this all together. And the bottom line here is that it is okay to want to be thin. It's normal to want to be thin. It's culturally almost a survival skill that we have all developed, right? This desire to be thin. So yes, it is okay to have that desire and to be on a journey of body love and acceptance and self-care centered in wisdom, right? Grounded in wisdom and connection to your body. All of those things are okay. What we want to do is shift to a place of relationship and curiosity, right? Shifting to befriending that part so that you can care for it, understand it, but maintain your place of leadership where you are values driven, where you are building those skills of connecting to your body, building that presence and awareness of what you actually need so you can respond to those needs in wisdom and not out of fear that this part might bring into your system, right? That's the journey, befriending and maintaining that self-leadership. I would love to hear from you what resonated with you, if this is something that you've experienced, right? This desire to be thin, the pushback against that desire, the cultural pressure. Please comment below and share what resonated with you and what your experience has been in this context, right? This desire to be thin, this desire to accept your body as it is. Please comment below. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos on building a life of health and well-being that are centered in restoring your connection to your body wisdom and understanding and maintaining that place of self-leadership as you understand and befriend all the parts of you. You can also go to nourishwhoyouare.com to sign up for a free coaching session if you're interested in experiencing what that feels like to have an IFS-informed approach to coaching and that support on your journey to well-being, where we go far beyond simply building the skills. That's a part of it, right? Building those skills to nourish your body, but really building the skills to befriend those parts of you and to maintain self-leadership. Go to nourishwhoyouare.com and you can sign up for a free coaching session and experience what that feels like. Again, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.